Hello, people. Why do some ex-seminarians start living a life totally different from who they used to be? Is the process all about pretense? I want to answer this question in three different ways or with three different perspectives. First is going to be on the individual. Second is going to be on the human. And third is going to be on the system, something I consider to be systemic. So on the individual, like the saying goes, you cannot force a horse to drink, even if you force it to the river. And in the seminary system, individuals who just have this personality that they don't want to conform, they don't want to agree, they don't want to follow what's going on. And also, it goes back to what I've been saying in some of my other videos. If they are not there genuinely for their own sake, if they're not convinced, but they can't go because there are a lot of pressure from people, parents, they remain there, absent minded, but present in body. They would go through the system doing what you want them to do, but not being who they should be. Like do all the assignments, obey the rules, probably even get ordained. And this is why it is very important that we as Christians, as Catholics, continue to pray for our priest. Because like I said sometime in my video, there is no mistake in heaven. So if somebody goes through this route and becomes a priest, God works in mysterious ways and God will still use his ordained for his own will. So let's continue to pray for our priests. And for those who get out of the seminary, of course, that's probably what my friend is asking. They find out, okay, now I am free. I live my life. I do what I want to do. On the human level, once restrictions are lifted, people begin to want to try things that they never had a chance to try. And that's what we see when some people leave the seminary and begin to live their lives in certain ways that maybe you did not think that's who they used to be. Then on the system, this is touching on something very sensitive. When there are so many rules, and in the seminary, there are lots of rules. Most of them have good basis. Most of them are to the betterment of the individual, especially when the individual cooperates with these laws. They get formed, transformed. I like the thing about information, formation, and transformation. However, some of these laws are largely baseless, outdated, and unnecessary. Why would in this century young men, mostly over 18, who are being trained to lead the community of God's people, not be allowed to use phones freely? A lot of seminaries in different dioceses in Nigeria still have this absurd, outdated, I don't understand rule of seminarians cannot use phone. However, most of these formators still know that the seminarians use phone. So why the rule in the first place? When these people eventually get ordained, some, not all, you see one person having two phones, three phones, one Samsung, one iPhone, one small phone, and one of those phones can actually do what all the phones are doing. It's just this thing about, having been restricted from something, now you get the freedom to do it and you want to have all of these gadgets. There is something about the system that is not helpful, and that also informs how some seminarians, when they become ex-seminarians, live. And that's what I'm touching on. Another thing about the system is some formators keep on telling students, in our time it was like this. It is no longer your time. If you're a formator, you were probably formed 20 years, 15 years ago. And if you don't have that much of experience, I don't even know what you are doing in a formation house. So if you already have this good experience of years, both in ministry and in formation, then you should know that it's no longer your time. It is the time of the individuals you're forming. It is their time. You have to learn what is in vogue, learn what works in their time, especially this phone aspect. Why in this day and time will somebody tell an adult who is being trained to become a leader personality religious leader personality not to use phones? How do they advise young boys and girls who come to them when they become ordained that they are not able to manage their time because they are distracted by Instagram, by Facebook, and all of that? You know, there is a lot about abuse. Yes, we know. But abuse does not negate use. The fact that people can abuse these things really does not negate why they should be used. And I say a big thank you to the formation I got, to the seminary where I was. Actually, I have been in the diocesan and I was also in the religious. So I'm talking from these two worlds of experiences. When I was in the religious congregation, Schoenstatt Fathers, I keep hailing and thanking them, not because they are perfect, but because when I was there, I was well formed. There was never like any need for me to commit any crime, for me to like plan to do something and not be caught. Because you look around and you don't find the rules anywhere. You just show, like, come to the chapel, you come. If you're coming late, you know you're coming late. You're an adult, you know. I never had any reason to have to think about how to navigate and how to do something and not be caught. It is a training on responsibility, on freedom. Freedom with responsibility. Another thing about this system is the emphasis on laws, especially the letter of the law without the spirit of the law. The formators are human beings. They can't see behind, obedience of laws. Take off those laws for one semester. Of course, there are some community events that should become mandatory because of how it contributes to the community experience of the formation. However, things that are much extra, just make them free. And see the men you have there, and see the men you're forming, and allow these people to come out truly. And when they don't like it, they can walk up to you in trust and say, you know what, I don't like this. So yeah, this is my point. The reason why some ex-seminarians behave the ways that surprise people is because of how this whole system has worked for them. And like I said, it's not just the system, it is also about the individual, it's also about the human nature and how we respond to restrictions, especially when restrictions are lifted.